Welcome to Your Next Mission podcast with the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army and co-founder of the American Freedom Foundation, Jack L. Tilley. Proudly presented by Cavalry Agency, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue University Global, and Veterans United Home Loans.
Good day out there, veterans and families, and welcome to Season 2 of Your Next Mission podcast, a program initiative of the American Freedom Foundation. I'm Jack L. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, and your host for today's show, and we have a great show for today. But before we do that, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Cavalry Agency, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue University Global, and Veterans United Home Loans for making Your Next Mission happen. They love our veterans and families, and I say every week, we love them too. Today, we're going to focus on the Navy Federal Credit Union's best careers for military spouses. And I'm so excited to introduce Matt Vean, Assistant Manager of Commercial Business Lending for the Navy Federal Credit Union. Welcome, Matt. So good to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Yeah. Matt, I know everybody's eager to talk about, all the stuff that's going on in the Navy Federal Credit Union. But before we do that, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've been with Navy Federal for 4 years. I manage our commercial lending team. So currently I have a team of commercial lenders across the country. We have folks in San Diego, folks in Florida, here in the Washington, D.C. area. And so we focus all commercial banking. Prior to myself with Navy Federal, I worked for Capital One here in McLean, Virginia. And then prior to that, I worked for 2 or 3 other banks in Denver. Originally from Denver, Colorado, born and raised, native. I met my wife. My wife's active duty lieutenant colonel in the Space Force. I met her when she was stationed at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs, which brought us to DC in 2014. And so we've been in the DC area ever since. We love it here. We absolutely do. We have a few more years before she can officially retire. Yeah. But more importantly, working for Navy Federal is fantastic. We're a military family. And so what better way to help serve is to serve the families and the members of Navy Federal Credit Union.
Yeah, the Space Force now, that's only been around just a couple of years now, hasn't it? I'm certainly sure she got a pretty good job in there.
Yeah, it was interesting. So a couple of years ago when it was officially launched, she really kind of thought, and she said, hey, the majority of my career has been in space. And so she's always managed and designed satellite ground systems. And so she took the leap. And so she's been with the Space Force since last summer. And so she loves it. She's actually managing some really awesome projects right now and some programs. And so she's just absolutely loving it.
Matt, before we get into federal best careers for military spouses, let's talk about why military spouses' employment is so important.
Right. Over the past several years, we could go back to 2014 and 2015, the underemployment rate for a military spouse was astronomical. The average unemployment rate for a military spouse is still hovering around 22 to 25%. And so we have such a pool of folks, both men and women, who have phenomenal skills. They're super resilient and super tenacious. The problem is there's a lot of employers out there that see military families moving every couple of years, every 2, 3, 4 years. And they think that their stint in Washington, D.C., or they think their stint in Colorado Springs or San Diego is just going to be a short stint. I will tell you the nice thing about what's happened over the past several years is this remote work environment. So unfortunately, COVID is a horrible thing, but it forced employers to reevaluate telework and that, hey, we can do this job remotely. And so fortunately for the military spouse community, the past couple of years has been phenomenal because there's a lot of positions out there that are promoting telework.
Yeah. I was going to hit on that now. I'm sure the pandemic has had an impact on military spouse employment in the picture, but not to the extent one might think. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, I'm sure that you just hit on it a minute ago about, maybe it's an advantage now, maybe a little bit because of the pandemic. The military spouses maybe get more jobs.
Right. So going back to it, COVID's been a big game changer for military spouses. So obviously it was easier for employers. It was easier for employers to have a bias about hiring a military spouse like myself or somebody else who could have been a school teacher or a nurse. Frequent moves, transient, et cetera. Now that remote work has entered the mainstream, the opportunity for spouses has truly opened up. Additionally, the lifestyle of working from home and creating a sense of mission and purpose, even in home life, allows the military spouse to create a work-life balance that some full-time employees struggle with when their jobs went from in-person to being fully remote.
Yeah. You said a minute ago the percentage of military spouses unemployed was 22%. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
so what is it now? So what's the
22.
percentage now? I mean, is it a lot lower now, I guess?
I don't know. This was something that's been done over the past 12 to 18 months. So with other programs, with Hiring Our Heroes, Hire Our Heroes USA, partnering with the National Chamber of Commerce, they're frequently updating that statistic. However, if you're on LinkedIn, social media, they're eager, they're out there, they're aggressive when promoting military spouse employment.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I was thinking about, there's so many jobs out there now for military, not just military spouse, really for everybody. So I guess that's really to the advantage to a lot of people. In fact, I often tell people I know that I'm not sure where everybody went. There's so many jobs out there. Where's everybody hiding at?
I say the same thing. It's amazing to see in the community today how many people are just not working.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, there's a lot of people hiring, and employers are having such a struggle trying to find people. When you think of top 10 industries and when you think of industries that military spouses should be focusing on, I mean, you think of government and public administration, you can think of business support and human resources, healthcare, educational services, information technology, financial services, defense contracting, retail and customer service. Also, to kind of to be a part of that is when you think of government and public administration, that's obviously number one. And when you think of where military families move, San Diego, Washington, D.C., Florida, not only are there large military bases, there's also large government offices. Yeah. And so I know when you're looking for federal positions, state positions, they do look differently today if you are a military spouse versus not.
Yeah, but the other good thing about that is that because of technology and the things that are going on, I own a small company. I have, I guess, 12 people now that work with me, but they're scattered out all over the country. I don't never need to see them. I see them every couple of weeks on a Zoom call or something, but I don't need to engage them. The only time, really, to be honest with you, the only time I engage them if I got a problem, or if they got a problem with something. So it makes it really pretty easy. Yeah,
it does. It's interesting. I've never worked in a remote position in my entire life. And so when COVID happened, it was a big adjustment for myself to be able to, from going into the office 5 days a week to now staying at home. But we've all gotten into our rhythm. We've all gotten into our routine. But you nailed it. Working remote, you're more efficient. You can focus differently on the task at hand, along with being with your family. Yeah. And you're being able to be there in the morning and at night.
I think the other thing, and we got on something else here in a minute, but this is an interesting conversation. If you guys are listening on the show here today, that, when you talk about employment, military spouses employment, what we're talking about here, but it's really everybody's employment. But the neat thing about it, I think if I was a large business owner and I had, a few hundred people that are working, and during the pandemic, I let them stay at home, I'm sort of thinking I'd downsize a little bit. You know what I mean? Because you can save a lot of money. Downsizing, and you can probably get a lot more raises for your employees. I mean, do you see people doing that or anything like that, sort of downsizing? Maybe not as many people going back to work in an installation or something, I guess, or
right. I think you see companies downsizing, and then I also think you see a lot of people adjusting right now. Obviously, with the rate of inflation right now is just astronomical. We haven't seen this in a long time. Yeah. So I think what a lot of employers are doing, small, medium, and large, just depending on where they're at, is they're looking at how much money they've saved over the past couple of years. Just because people aren't coming into the office, bills are a lot lower. You're not turning the lights on. You don't have that added expense. And so I know a lot of companies out there are adjusting salaries just to retain employees and then to also help them with the rate of inflation to keep them.
Yeah, I think the other thing, like I said, we get on something. The other thing is the economy. The thing that's going on with the economy, with all the stuff, everything's. I bought some lifesavers. Sort of a crazy example, but I bought some lifesavers in a airport here the other day, and there was $2.40 for a pack of lifesavers. It's probably about 50 cents, and I thought to myself, my goodness, I mean, everything is going up. Again, I keep saying Alaska, but again, I worry about the fact that they go up, but you think they'll ever come back down?
It's a great question. We're all thinking the same thing.
I'm thinking of it. Because people, when you get to a certain point, and I'm making a pretty good income off of that, even if the economy comes back down, will the people that raise those prices, will they bring them back down? And I don't, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they would or they wouldn't. We're talking with Matt Vean, Assistant Manager of the Commercial Business Lending for the Navy Federal Credit Union. And you're listening to Your Next Mission podcast with me, your host, Jack L. Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major Army. I always like pumping that up a little bit. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this discussion, please like us. Click on that subscribe button, just like I was talking to Matt. Click on that button down there and subscribe to Your Next Mission podcast. Matt, to continue on the discussion, I know my experience that military spouses bring a lot to the workforce. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why do military spouses so important to the workforce? I personally know why, because they're dedicated, loyal, committed, and go ahead.
Military spouses, at times probably sell themselves short when it comes to describing their strengths. We're talking about incredibly agile thinkers who are balancing priorities all the time and constantly. We are, as a spouse myself, we're a tenacious group and we excel in team settings, but also know how to get the job done when we're left on our own. I mean, there's so many stories where the spouse is deployed, husband, wife, moving 3 kids across country, buying or renting a home, selling a home, school. I mean, we're handling so much. And so, it's really interesting where, the tenacity and the resiliency is something to really focus on, because I know employers love that. They want to be able to see people agile and that can do that. They may not be qualified. I shouldn't say they may not show that one qualification of, I don't have that direct 2 years of management experience or analytical experience, but look what I've done. I'm managing a home. I'm managing 3 kids. I'm managing a move. We're moving every 6 months or every 2 years. And so, I think at times we have sold ourselves short. However, over the past couple of years, I think it has shifted quite a bit. Yeah. And they're saying, and we're seeing that, hey, we can do this job. And I think it's the whole remote thing that's been able to really help.
Yeah. It's really funny you say that, because all the time I was in the military, I stayed in the military a long time, and I never moved my household goods. My wife always did that. And the one time when I retired, I got in there and moved the household goods, and I said, this is tough, because you account for everything and stuff. So I'm with you that what military spouses do, I always call them the unsung heroes. I mean, they do so much that a lot of people just don't realize. And that's why it's so important to really hire a military spouse. There's no question about that. To follow up, the military spouse has the ability to pursue a higher education because of their military spouse's benefits. And you know about that personally, as a personal experience. Can you elaborate on a little bit? I know that you use some of your wife's benefits or your spouse's benefits.
I did, yeah. No, I did. One thing when we moved to Washington, D.C. is I knew I needed to personally further my education. It's something that I always thought about doing, but there's always a cost associated with that. And so I knew having my MBA was important for me to progress in my career as we move around and whatnot. It's super important for myself to separate myself from the competition and keep my skills super transparent. What happened was I saw how much the MBA programs were at various colleges and universities in the DC area. And I took a look to see, okay, how much the cost is versus my salary. And then once I graduate, will I recoup that benefit with a higher paying job or raise, et cetera? And so what happened was my wife came back and she's like, Matt, she says, I still have 4 years of my GI Bill. And, at the Air Force at that time, they paid for my wife to already have 2 master's degrees. And so I was very, very, very fortunate to have my wife basically transfer 20 months of her GI Bill for me to complete my MBA program for free, which was nice.
Well, it's unbelievable too. But you can also, I guess you can transfer that to your children too, can't you?
Yeah. So with our daughter, she's going to be 3 years old come August. So my wife still has 16 months left. And so she can transfer, now that she's already transferred a set to myself, she can transfer it to our daughter anytime now. So she still has almost 2 years available that we'll be able to assign to our daughter.
Yeah, that's, again, you make me think, as you're talking, you make me think of stuff. So I guess there's no time limit when you use that, as long as she's still here. I mean, you can, if 17 years or 20 years later, whatever, you can transfer it to your daughter.
Yeah. So right now, because she's already utilized part of it, she can. But I know there is a timeline. If you are active duty and you've never used that benefit and you do want to transfer, there is something with the VA, because I know that my wife had to serve another 4 years after she transferred it to me.
Yeah. Does it look like she's going to retire in the next couple of years? Is that the plan here?
It is. I mean, she can retire fully in 2026. But, just recently she's really progressed in her career. And so I know making lieutenant colonel was really important to her. But I think now she has some great opportunities where, possibly becoming full bird colonel and 06 in the future. So, hey, Jack, as you know, we just take one assignment at a time.
You know what I tell people? I stayed in the Army a long time. I say 36 years, and people used to say, "Are you still in the Army?" And I used to tell people, I said, "Yeah, I like doing this job, and I'm going to do it as long as I can. And I'm not working for individuals. I'm working for me and my family and the Army, of course. But keep go as long as you enjoy it. I think that's the key. And everybody has goals in life." Financial goals or whatever. So you need to keep working and doing what you like for as long as you can. And it's a lot of fun. Go ahead.
You have to. I mean, it's just, both whether you're active duty, private sector, et cetera, we meet so many people who are just unhappy in their job, and find your passion, find your calling. But then on the flip side, like my wife and other people's, she has such a passion for what she does. She loves the mission. She loves what she's doing. And so not a lot of people can say that. And, I tell her, I'm like, Mary, you love what you do. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're loving it, keep doing it.
Well, you only go around once. You don't get back and say, well, I wish I did this a little bit different 20 years from now. You only go around, do what you want to do. Enjoy your life and have fun.
Exactly.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Your Next Mission podcast.
You're watching Your Next Mission, proudly presented by the Cavalry Agency. They help brands dominate no matter their size. Ideas, strategy, action. This is Cavalry. Learn more at cavalry.com. Navy Federal Credit Union, the most trusted credit union owned by members of the military community, serving all branches of the armed forces and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Purdue Global, providing affordable online education for hardworking adults. Learn more about a personalized, innovative, and world-class education at PurdueGlobal.edu. Veterans United Home Loans, the #1 VA lender for 5 straight years. If you're buying, they're funding your dreams. Learn more at VeteransUnited.com. Now back to your host, the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley.
Welcome back. I'm the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack L. Tilley. We're blessed to be here today with Matt Vean, Assistant Manager in Commercial Business Lending for the Navy Federal Credit Union. And I want all our listeners to reach out to me directly. Tell us about your transition. Tell us what topics you'd like us to cover on this show. I always say that. Tell us what you want, because we want to assist you. You can call or text me at 844-424-1134, and I'll reach out. I'll actually contact you back, or send me an email at SMA Tilley at yournextmission.org. Okay, let's pick it up where we left off here, Matt. We're heading into our final segment with you today, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I just have a couple of more questions here. At the beginning, we said that in the theme of today's podcast, that the Navy Federal Credit Union's best careers for military spouses. Let's dive in that a little bit. What careers are? I think you mentioned that just a few minutes ago about some of your careers. Let's hit that a little bit harder, I guess.
In my experience and looking into the data that we have, we found the top 5 attributes of a suitable career, according to active duty spouses, surveyed as follows. So flexible hours and schedules, super important right now. Competitive compensation, a clear career advancement path, a consistent work location, and that can either be in person or remote, depending on which way you want to go, a team-oriented work environment, and then flexible and childcare options. And so hopefully none of those come to a surprise to anybody today. I mean, we're seeing it today in all facets.
Yeah. So can they go on the Navy Federal Credit Union's website and sort of see a list of those jobs or recommendation on careers?
Yep. So for a full best careers for military spouses report, visit NavyFederal.org. If you're looking for tips on financial success or have questions about your personal transition or financial future, reach out to our team at Navy Federal Credit Union. You can call us, go to your local branch. You can go online and send a message, and we're all here to help.
Yeah. Matt, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why are these careers so suited for military spouses?
it goes hand in hand to what we do. What we do every day, it translates to exactly as to why. Hopefully that answers it. I know it's kind of, the answer. So.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is I think you hit on this a little while ago is the military spouse has so many qualifications. Sometimes they don't know what their qualifications are, and you need to sit down and I think, I don't know if they have a system in place. I'm sure they do have military spouses that are mentors for other military spouses. I don't know if they have anything like that. So they sort of guide the military spouses in the correct direction.
There's a lot. Through nonprofits, through local bases, there's support groups out there. And so, what's really interesting is military spouses are going to help military spouses. It's a tight-knit community. You can consider it like a fraternity or to a sorority that you're going to help your brother or your sister out. And, to kind of couple that, what's also really, really important is social media, is getting on LinkedIn and different platforms to build your network, both from a local perspective of where you're living to a national. You're creating your spider web. And the whole idea of your spider web is to fish your name out there, and then you wheel it in and you want to see what kind of latches. And you got to go it from all different angles and facets to help meet new people, develop relationships, et cetera. There's no more of going to a career website online. You apply online because that's almost basically submitting your resume to a black hole. You got to build your network, meet those folks, introduce yourself, and build that relationship so you can really bypass that initial thing, talk to the hiring manager, and then they say, hey, come back, apply online, et cetera.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, let's talk a little bit about social media there a little bit, because you brought it up and I was thinking about it. Like, are you active on social media with a lot of stuff?
Yep, I'm very active. And so, I've used my platform. I use LinkedIn heavily a lot, both from a professional and also a personal standpoint. I share my business on there. I share what my team is doing, thought leadership. More recent, I've shared a little bit about my family and raising a daughter and putting pictures out there. And so it's been awesome to see more and more people link into those posts, comment on them. And so I'm on there every day. I spend about 30 minutes a day. I have a large network in there, and I have a lot of people who reach out to me all the time saying, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I'm all about it. When we moved to DC, that's how I got my job. Is I met 10 people, and not a lot of them could help me, but they were responsive. They wrote back and they're saying, hey, I'm going to get you in touch with the right person or persons to help you. And I was fortunate because DC is a very transient city. So a lot of people in the Washington, DC area have gotten jobs because they know somebody. Mm-hmm. And so you want to pay it forward. I'm going to pay it back. Same way.
Well, it's just not about knowing somebody. It's about having the capabilities and stuff. But you're right. It is about knowing, getting your foot in the door. You have all the qualifications, but if you can't talk to the right people. But you made me think of something here. I'm an old guy. I always think about stuff. But I had, a few years ago, somebody contacted me and says, hey, do you know whatever this guy's name was? And I said, no, I don't. And he said, well, you're connected to him on LinkedIn. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. So he gave me the name, and I went there, and I was connected to him. So I sent him a little text that says, hey, would you give me a call? So the guy called me, and I talked to him about 50 minutes. I says, hey, are you applying for a job? He said, how do you know that? I said, well, somebody was asking me. He said, what kind of job is it? And the guy went through all this series of stuff, telling me all this stuff. I said, well, I appreciate it. And it ended out, I had been assigned with this guy years later. He's a great guy. And so I said, I appreciate it. He said, why are you calling? I said, well, somebody asked me about your qualifications. He said, I can't believe that. I just put it out like 30 minutes ago and applied for this job. And so I said, anyway, so I said, I got it, chit-chat a little while and hung up. And I called the guy back and I said, look, I don't know who you're considering, but this guy's the right guy for your job. And I think it was the next day the guy called me and says, hey, I don't know what you did, but I got the job. So, I mean, there's a lot of really good things on social media, I think, that can really help a lot. And of course, there's always negative with anything else, but there's a lot of good stuff that it's a way to stay connected. And in fact, if you're not on social media, I think you're missing a bullet nowadays.
I'll be honest, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. I know there's a lot of people who are hesitant about social media, and there's platforms, there's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They all have their purpose and mission. Yeah. But I tell everybody, if you're not on LinkedIn from a professional standpoint, you are doing a disservice to yourself. That is my professional resume. Yeah. I mean, people really don't look at paper resumes anymore. They see your experience. They see where you went to school. What are your certifications? Who you're connected with? What are groups you're associated with? It's a much different ballgame today. And so I challenge everybody, try it.
Yeah, you can find out a lot about a person if you get on social media. I mean, you can really sort of dig down into the bowels of that stuff. Again, a guy like myself, I've been around a long time. Every once in a while, you get somebody that'll say something that you probably don't like or whatever. But that's just the way of life there. Hey, let me ask you. I'm going to ask you. I really just want to have a couple more questions. But as a military spouse, if you was king for a day, how would you help other military spouses? Is there something that you'd recommend to all the people? I mean, we can talk about financial education, start a savings, but whatever. What kind of a recommendation would you get to a group of military spouses, I guess?
Don't be afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
Branch out and go from there. I mean, we're so strong on keeping things intact. But put yourself out there. Yeah. Go to a networking event. Go out and for coffee and meet somebody. Spark up a conversation.
Yeah.
Just more interaction. Sometimes what happens too within the military community is you stay within the military community, and that's great. It's a safety net. But as I kind of alluded to earlier, is cast your fishing pole out there and build your spider web out a little bit. You want to create that net and take your net out further and meet some different people. Meet people in different industries. Yeah. Different companies doing different things.
Even different services like Army, Navy, Marine.
Right.
Hey, did you know that? All right. Hey, Matt. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with the audience? Anything that you missed? Hey, maybe you ought to do is give that website and a phone number. Anything you want to shoot out to the audience that tells a little bit about the Navy Federal Credit. And I got to say something about the Navy Federal Credit. What a great organization! They do so much for our military, not just for the Navy. So when you hear that same Navy, you say, "Oh, they're just working there." No, they're not. They're working with all services, helping as many people as they can throughout our country. Great organization. Great unit. So
it is. I'll say something is I never thought I would ever work for a credit union, nor Navy Federal, really. Yeah. And so when this opportunity came my way in 2018, I really talked it over with my wife, and it's interesting. We're a military family, and so I'm like, this is awesome. We get to build something, and I can help our members who are veterans, retirees, active duty, people who are connected to the military somehow. But being able to serve and the purpose behind it and also having it in our home life is awesome. And so I think for myself personally, I'm able to bring a little bit different, and I can relate to our members because we're a military family. Please go to NavyFederal.org. There's awesome resources out there. Great for military spouses. Please send a message, go to your local branch, call our 800 number. We're here to help. So if there's any questions that you have, please, we have all different avenues in order for somebody to get in touch with us.
Yeah. Again, for the people who's listening today, Matt's just not talking about that. He wants to assist you in any way they can. So reach out to him. Reach out to that Navy Federal Credit Union because they're a first-class organization. There's always question about that. And they care about our active duty, our retirees, our veterans, our military spouses, and everybody. So I can't thank you enough, really, for coming on the show today. And thank you for what you do and what you continue. Not just you, also your spouse and all the things she's doing in Space Command there. Thanks to Matt Vean, and I'm Jack Tilley, 12th Sergeant Major in the Army. You've been listening to Your Next Mission podcast. And thank you for listening today. It's really pretty insightful when you talk about military spouses and the importance of just hiring a military spouse and really paying them back because they do so much for all of us. Please visit us at our website at yournextmission.org and leave me a review. I always say I hope it's a good review, but if it's a bad one, I can take that too. You can also visit our partners there who will provide you with so many services that will assist you in your transition from the military. And also visit our corporate partners and see all the jobs that are available. But please know we want to assist you in any way we can. I'm going to say that again because I really mean it. Please know we're in the military. We're all part of it doesn't matter what service you're in. We're all together. Please know we want to assist you in any way we can. Please follow me on all my social media channels. I never thought I'd ever say that, but Matt, you probably like that. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And if you enjoyed this discussion with Matt, and I know you did, please like us. Click on that subscribe button below. Let's join a team just like the Navy Federal Credit Union that wants to help just as many veterans and family members as we can. Don't forget, we want to hear from you. Please leave me or send me a message at 844-424-1134 or send me an email at smatilley@yournextmission.org. Thanks again to Matt Vean for being on with us today, and it was just great having you on the show. I want to leave you with really three things to remember. We're dedicating this season 2 of Your Next Mission to all those veterans and family members who struggle with mental illness, which so often has led to someone taking their own life. Please reach out to someone you haven't spoken with in a long time and check on them. See how they're doing. I always call it a buddy check. Even if I haven't talked to you for 10 or 15 years, you're still part of my family. And I think it's important for me to tell you this story. I had a couple of friends here about 8 or 9 months ago that committed suicide. And it just breaks my heart. And I always think, could I have did anything different? Could I checked on them, made a difference in their life? Again, we're all part of a family. Again, doesn't matter what service you're in, we're all together. And I'd like every veteran in America to celebrate his or her time in the service by wearing their service hat, even a military spouse. Wear your service cap right there. And send me a photo, and I'll put it on my social media channels. And I want to encourage everyone who's listening today to reach out to me, or reach out to a neighbor. Reach out to a neighbor and offer a smile or a helping hand. Together, let's try to bridge that divide that's really affected so many of us here lately. Again, thanks for listening. And thanks to Cloudcast Media, and of course, our 4 presenting sponsors, Cavalry Agency, Navy Federal Credit Union, Purdue University Global, and Veterans United Home Loans for making, Your Next Mission happen. We appreciate all you do for our military. And as always, see you on the high ground. Hooah!
You've been listening to Your Next Mission, brought to you by the American Freedom Foundation. Learn more by visiting yournextmission.org.